But you know what? Guess what? Tim Twentyman is joining us now. Let's bring him in now. Writer for the DetroitLions.com. Tim,
What's up, Tim?
Hopefully you can hear me all right. On my phone, I was having a little trouble with the computer, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay.
We hear you, buddy. Thanks for calling in.
Tim, we want to ask you the same question we just asked Crackman. What's the energy like in not Arrowhead, but what's the energy like in Kansas City right now?
I'll tell you what, guys, there's a Detroit invasion in Kansas City. I'm staying right downtown here. I'll be going over the stadium here in a couple hours, but just walking around downtown Kansas City, I have seen tons and tons of Lions jerseys. My plane here was pretty ruckus. There might have been the forward down the field fight song being sung on the plane. Yeah, so there are quite a few Lions fans here. What a great road trip. Obviously, with the schedule, where you're playing years ahead of time. So what a great road trip to pick. And I think Detroit's going to have a significant following at Arrowhead tonight.
Tim, now are the Detroit fan base, are they behaving themselves? We're not typically the ones to behave ourselves. Are we behaving so far?
Everybody has behaved themselves. I haven't heard any debauchery so far, so I think everything is good. I can't wait to get to Arrowhead here. I'm going to leave here in a couple hours and
That's when
get
it begins.
Down there and get settled in. And then it begins, and we'll see how many people are actually there.
Hey, Tim, I wanted to ask you about I asked Braylon this earlier, and as a player, he answered it. I want to ask you, have you been in a stadium where there is a ring ceremony, a champion being crowned in front of your face? What do you think the Lions take out of this?
I can't recall that I haven't. It's interesting. I'm actually excited for tonight because this is the last stadium that I have never been to in the NFL. So I will be able to mark all 32 off my list once I get to this one tonight. But I think the pregame is probably a little bit different. It's going to take a little bit longer with the ceremonies and the razor the banner raising, and I think they're going to have a tribute to the Hunt family too. So I think it'll just take a little bit longer. So maybe your pregame routine is a little bit messed up, but I think it's motivation for the Lions. Obviously, they want to get to where Kansas City is. They want to be doing next year what Kansas City is doing today. So I think it's motivation, if anything else.
All right, let's get the elephant in the room. It's the Travis Kelce game, right? Travis Kelce, we don't know if he's going to play. He's questionable. Well, I guess we'll wait and see. More than likely, he will play. Chris Jones, he ain't going to play. So how does that affect the Lions? I know the line went down 2 points. It might have even dropped a little bit more by the time the game kicks off. What's your take on that, Tim?
Well, it's a huge loss, obviously. I mean, you're talking about one of the most dominant interior defensive tackles. Like when you talk about pressure for a quarterback, the worst pressure you can get is that pressure up the middle. That's why Aaron Donald, Chris Jones are two of the best in the business. And look, Detroit's strength already is their offensive line. And so I think it puts a lot of pressure on some of the new guys, George Kalafdis, Derek Nottie, Dana. They've got a lot of new pieces in that defensive front for Kansas City, and now they're going to be without their anchor, their best guy, facing arguably one of the 2-3 best offensive lines in football. So I think it's a huge loss for Kansas City, and we'll see if Detroit can take advantage, especially running the ball and then protecting Goff, especially up the middle where quarterbacks hate that pressure.
Sound like a lot of Big Ten defensive linemen in this game between Dana, between Karlaftis, between Aiden Hutchinson. You talked about Chris Jones, of him not being able to go, what that means for Detroit's offensive line. Obviously, they pound the ball a little bit more and they run right at him. Talk about what happens if Travis Kelce doesn't play. Talk about what happens to Detroit's defense if he plays and he's not at his full speed. How does it change their scheme?
Well, I think, Braylon, where it changes it the most is when you watch Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, I think where they're most dangerous is when the play breaks down, right? When Mahomes is able to get out of the pocket, ad-lib a little bit, and he and Kelce are just have this terrific connection. They're on such a same page that Travis is able to find those little areas in the zone or beat man coverage to extend plays. And I think that's when you see Travis Kelce's biggest gains and biggest plays is when it's maybe off script a little bit. And they just have such a connection on those plays. And I think that's where Kansas City is going to miss them the most. Look, Detroit's got a plan for Travis Kelce, and they'll have a plan without him too. But I think that's where the biggest difference is. It's so hard when Mahomes breaks script, when he gets out of the pocket, and he's always looking for Travis Kelce, number 87, in those scenarios. And I think that's where they're going to miss him the most.
You know, we make so much about Travis Kelce potentially not playing, Chris Jones not playing, it making it about Kansas City. Well, Detroit's a damn good team, too, that really went in the offseason. They went to rim to find themselves, find their team. How should Detroit feel in terms of the confidence level walking in that field against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the reigning Super Bowl champs?
Their confidence is high. Look, they think they've got a good football team. And I can tell you this, Braylon, last year during training camp, I could probably count on a single hand the times I left a Lions training camp practice was like, wow, Detroit's defense was right there with the offense, or wow, Detroit's defense won that day. I think it was probably 50-50 this year. I think that defense is so much improved. And I think that's where the biggest confidence raiser for the Lions is some of the guys that they've brought in, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Cam Sutton. I mean, these are guys that are used to winning. These are guys that have played in big games. I don't think this moment is going to be too big for them. And I think that's rubbed off a little bit on some of the other guys. And so I think the confidence level on defense is where I've seen the biggest transformation. Look, this was a top 5 offense last year. They know they're going to be good offensively. The big question coming into this year was how much better are they going to be defensively? If they could be better defensively, then this team was going to be much more dangerous. That's just the way it was going to be. And I think the way they played in training camp, the way they matched the offense toe to toe, day in and day out in training camp, those guys on that side of the ball are really, really confident. And look, they're going to get tested today against the reigning MVP and the number 1 passing offense from last year. So Dan Campbell's going to know how good his defense is right away with Kelce or without. That's still a very dangerous team offensively with the best quarterback in the game.
Tim Twentyman joins us, Lions.com, of course, the senior writer and insider, and he has to put up with Mike O'Hara on a daily basis. My man, hey, is this the right time, Tim, to play this team?
Yeah, I think so. I think you want to play a team early. You guys mentioned the banner raising and the everything else that goes along with that. They've got a lot of new pieces up front that I talked about. They've got some young receivers that they're getting into the mix. And so I think you always want to play a team of that caliber early in the season when they're going to be maybe pounding their chest a little bit, thinking, smiling big about that banner going up and some of the other distractions maybe that tonight will present for them being their home opener, with all the stuff that's going on ahead of time. So, yeah, I think it's a great time to get them. I don't think you want to get Mahomes, a month or two into the season when he's really on the same page with a lot of these young receivers. A guy, Kadarius Toney, who missed some time last year, who, I think in 4 or 5 weeks, he's going to be much more settled into that offense. Patrick Mahomes is going to have a much better idea and a good feel for him. I think it's a great time to get him. If you're going to get him week 1 and see what your football team's all about.
Yeah, Tim, and Lucas Klotz here. Appreciate you coming on the show, man. And we just kind of touched on the defense a second ago. And Tracy Walker missed a lot of last season. CJ Gardner-Johnson, obviously new here. And Brian Branch, a rookie. And obviously Kirby Joseph is there as well. But what do you expect to see personnel-wise? Who do you think will get the most snaps out of these safeties tonight?
Yeah, pretty much how it has gone, and really Brian Branch has made it this way. He has been so good, guys, that they've really been unable to take him off the field. I mean, the plan going into this season was CJ Gardner-Johnson was going to be your nickel cornerback, and because Brian Branch has been so consistent and so good and so versatile, that they basically said, look, we can't take this kid off the field. So he's going to play the nickel, and they've moved CJ Gardner-Johnson back to the safety spot next to Kirby Joseph. That's pushed Tracy Walker into the second team. Now Tracy's still going to play. They're going to have some packages for him, but really you're going to see Jerry Jacobs and Cam Sutton on the outside. You're going to see Brian Branch in the nickel, and it's going to be Kirby Joseph and CJ Gardner-Johnson at safety. And boy, between those 5 guys, that is a serious upgrade from what we saw last year.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see that. Obviously, Brian Branch, a rookie, but another rookie that Ben Johnson spoke on recently this week was Jahmyr Gibbs, and how they plan to utilize him in ways that people really wouldn't expect. So what do you think ultimately they're going to utilize him as? Do you think he could get more rushing carries than people expect?
You guys saw that tweet from me this week, huh? That kind of blew up.
There you go.
There you go.
Expecting that tweet to have the life that it did, but yeah, I think here's the one thing that you've got to understand with Jameer is that in my 15 years covering the NFL, I have not seen, or covering the Lions, I should say, I have not seen a better pass catching running back come in the league. And that's Reggie Bush. That's Javid Best. This kid is just really good in terms of a route running. He always catches the ball away from his body. Braylon, you'd understand, he never breaks stride at all when he catches the ball. Some running backs will slow down maybe, make sure they catch it first. I mean, this kid is catch and go, and he's dynamic. And, one of the things I think we'll see from him in the pass game is Ben Johnson said this week, he was asked about the vertical passing game. You don't have DJ Chark anymore. Obviously, Jamison Williams is suspended. So where's your vertical threat going to come from? And he said, look, it doesn't have to be from the wide receiver position. And one thing we saw in camp a lot is Jahmyr Gibbs making plays down the field because he's such a terrific wide receiver. So some of those wheel routes, getting him in the slot, if he's matched up against a linebacker, watch for lines to take maybe a shot or two to Jahmyr Gibbs down the field and maybe him to plant some of that vertical threat in the passing game they're not going to have without Jamison Williams. And to your question about carries, I think it's going to be about 50-50. That's what I expect. David Montgomery's looked really good too. They're going to use both those guys, but I think where Jahmyr can make his biggest impact, guys, is in the passing game, maybe even vertically in the passing game, something we don't see a lot of running backs in this league do.
Last one from me, Tim. You got to get, of course, talk about the quarterback, and got to ask you, what does Jared Goff have to do this year to remain the Lions' starting quarterback and get an extension going forward?
Just do what he did the last 10 games of last year, right? You say that, but it's been 324 passes, guys, since Jared Goff threw an interception.
Wow.
He has been terrific, and I think that was the recipe for success last year in those last 10 games. Look, they've got a terrific offensive line. They're going to be able to run the football. Jared Goff in play-action passes last year, over 130 passer rating. That was the best in the NFL. And so, good up front, run the football, play action is Jared's strength, and don't turn the football over. That was the recipe for success last year. That's the recipe for success going into this year.
He's Tim Twentyman, Detroit News, DetroitLions.com. Always comes to the show, and he always shows up, man. We appreciate you so much. Hey, bring the Lions some luck, man. I already went on record and said they're going to beat the hell out of the Chiefs, so you got to bring them some luck.
Thanks, Tim.
I hope so. Enjoy the game tonight, guys.
You too, man. Have a safe trip back.